like the insertion point there, where essentially where the tendon would be.
Yeah.
So, and it's not like debilitating. It's to the point where
it's going round, man.
Everyone's annoying.
Everyone's getting it.
Engage, man. How's your elbow?
Yeah, it kind of flared up a little bit the other day after I did. I think I'm on this whole process now of just trying to eliminate or find out exactly what it is
triggering it,
because it's. I'm pretty sure it's not planche work. I don't think it's planche work. I don't think it's. I know the left arm. I figured something out, which is nice. Which is the left arm. I was having this kind of like flat pain here in my lats, and I didn't know if it was. I thought it was because I was sleeping weird. I thought maybe this is due to like the stretching I've been doing or something like that. And then finally, I had that blindingly obvious. I did a left arm day, focused on only the left arm, nothing on the right. And then the next day, it was just shooting pain. I'm like, oh, of course. But I think it was because it had always maybe been delayed or something.
So you wouldn't recognize it.
It wasn't like it's like this is really obvious. Now it's like blinding obvious.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out, was it the bent arm work that was causing the tendonitis? Was it the volume? Was it the right arm, one arm handstand work? Was it a particular exercise? Yeah, I'm still trying to figure that out.
What exactly of those movements is
because I can do dips, for example. Like I'll go up when I'm just warming up at the park before a planche session. I'll do some dips, and the dips will feel fine. So I'm like, okay, and then I'll do a pull up, and it's like, this is fucking shit pain. And then I do a chin up, and that's the worst thing ever. Chin ups were always
chin ups gave me pain, even if I was like 1000% fine.
Yeah, chin ups. People, if you're listening to this right now, chin ups on a bar are
terrible.
Yeah,
terrible.
Yeah, I don't.
Good on rings.
Yes,
like rings. Rings, I prefer chin.
Yeah,
than normal.
I'm thinking I might even be moving.
Fuck bar chins.
I think I might even move to only if I'm doing pull-ups and things in the future. Maybe I'll spend a lot more time working on rings.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not coming through right. It's coming through awful. All right, so
hold with us, folks. Hold with us.
Definitely something wrong with.
While you watch us, in any case, you'll get ready to see us. Well, at least me. I'm going to be sweating through this shirt.
One's going to be.
I got up nice and early. 4 hours and 50 minutes of sleep.
Nice.
Trained for an hour and 10 minutes. Walked in 2 kilometers. Walked at lunchtime, another 2 kilometers. Ran in the afternoon, so just before this, I ran 3.5 kilometers.
Yep.
So like 2 miles. Then I walked back to my car for 2 kilometers.
What the fuck, man?
Then I had dinner. And so my body is like in overheating mode of like so much exercise. Plus I just ate, so it's like just warm up. So for those keeping home count, that's roughly for my day on an average at the moment, 21,000 steps.
Ooh.
16 kilometers, 16.5 kilometers.
Yeah, well, I was walking around a shopping center for 4 hours today, so.
I wonder what you'd get.
I think I got some good.
Would have been plenty.
All right, so okay, that's sounding good.
Sound better?
Yeah, I'll just play a video. Get kicked off YouTube for doing this. We'll play some Pete. Pete won't mind. Let's see if that comes through. Let's see what that sounds like. I'll have to wait for that lag to catch up. But I can go over here to my notes and pick this. Copy this. Share this. Okay, that's not coming through. Okay, so I'll try one more thing, and if this doesn't work, then it doesn't work. So I want that audio output capture, add source, go to here, change it to the speaker, the real tech should. Okay. Hey.
Test.
Beats things. Is this coming through?
I'm confounded how it changed. Like every time something
Every
weird
time,
breaks.
right?
The industry, and
Every
this
time.
was a really cool
Okay, I think I
space.
got it.
I'll put it in the
I think I
links
got it
down
now.
below for you guys. But the
Thank you, Pete. Much appreciated. Okay, cool. Apologies, everyone. Just going to have to do the sharing of the links and whatnot now. So we'll start in about 2 minutes' time. Oops, go over there. Do you want to message the group chat?
Yep.
Please. Share, copy that. Go into the Discord. Now, so I know Peter is alive. I've seen him boosting other shows.
Yep.
So we've fallen off of his
his
goodness,
radar.
unfortunately. Hopefully he'll come back at some point. We're live right now, talking about virtues with Benjamin Franklin. Everyone, send it. I'm always sending it. Oh, and then so even though I wasn't there the whole time today, the girl from I was as I was walking past the Dusk, one of the not Dusk, it was one of the ones with Lush maybe. I was just keeping an eye if there was that girl who I saw the other week there, and she wasn't there the whole time. I was like, nah, bummer. Oh well, won't get to chat with her. As I got my groceries and was leaving, I walked past it again for the final time.
And she was there.
And then she was there. So I guess she starts work at 2 p.m.
Well, now you know for next time.
Now I know. Here we go. I need to collect that thing, get that, put this. Practical Ethics. I forgot what the title was. Is that right now? I'm talking about Benjamin Franklin. Tune now, or you'll have to wait 2 days until it is released. Caligula. There we go. Alright, that one is done. Sent that to there. Some of your media failed to upload. Good. Let's try it again. Tweet. Okay, maybe Twitter's not working. Who knows? Nope. Yeah, it's definitely fucked.
Good. Twitter.
Yeah.
Good.
Alright, I won't bother. Oh, alright. That was a mission and a half getting all that together. We're only 5 minutes late, so it's not too bad.
Excellent time.
Scoot in a little bit more ones.
Yep.
I'm going to try something new today as well.
What are you going to do?
A lot of the shows that I listen to, they start off with saying the date. And as I was listening to some in a back catalogue of the Handstand Cast, I did notice, it would have been nice to know how long ago this was actually created.
Yeah. Good point.
Kind of makes sense to me why that
Well, they would do that.
why that would be a useful thing.
Good call.
So I'm going to do that right at the start. Make sure I get the date right. 15th of March. I should know that.
Are you going to say 2023?
Yes, I will.
Cool.
All right. So that's good. And stop saying like and Juan.
No likes and ums.
No likes and ums today. All right. Let me just check.
We ready, fam?
That still sounds good. Here we go. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Mere Mortals Musings on the 15th of March 2023. You've got...
I almost thought he would have forgotten it. You
No.
got Juan here.
No, you got one on that side, got Kyron on this side. And a Musings episode is where we pick a topic, we go deeper into it, and focusing more on the...
No R's today and no likes.
No ums, no ers, no likes, no your nos. Trying to make the best podcast possible we can. And that kind of relates into improvements, self-improvements, and even ethics. So indeed, we're going to talk about practical ethics today, which I would say falls into our quote-unquote effective philosophy.
Yes.
Trademark
Yep.
pending.
Trademark pending.
Of how you can be a better person in the world, I would say, is kind of the way I would do that. So I came up with this, and it was because of this one section in this book that I have here, The Autobiography and Other Writings by Benjamin Franklin. And I came across him in Common as Air, and the other book review I did about...
You came across Ben Franklin?
Yes, and he was one of the examples of someone who was doing some really cool stuff as to, in particular, his Franklin stove, and he was making it available for the common good. He could have made a patent on it and charged tons of money and whatnot, but he was going, no, this is important for people to live better and whatnot, so I'm going to leave this free use. Anyone can copy this as they want.
Yeah, okay. Was he doing that towards the latter end of his career or the beginning
No, I think
of
that
his
was
career?
that was middle-ish, if not even a little bit earlier. So sure, he didn't desperately need money at the time.
I'm wondering, you know how there was a famous story of his factory getting burned and all of his stuff getting destroyed and him being like super calm about it.
I think that's Edison, right?
Maybe I might be misremembering.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so a different person there, but anyway.
Almost mere mortals.
Yeah. And so there's this one section in part 2 of his autobiography, and I'll read the first sentence here. It was about this time that I conceived the bold and arduous project of arriving at moral perfection. Moral perfection.
Moral perfection.
And I quite like that because
Jesus.
it reminded me of something I once said of being ethically sublime and trying to get after that. And so what's really cool with this is he basically has his approach to becoming a better person. And so I wanted to wrap all of that up with our approaches to becoming better people, more virtuous people, some practical ethics. So it's not just saying we're going to do this or that. It's actually, how do you actually go about being a little bit of a better person? Cool. So I'll just jump into his approach. So basically he was going, okay, I know I've got these faults and I want to try and eliminate these. And then he spent a little bit of time thinking about, okay, I have these habits, but these habits can be broken. And good ones are quiet and established, but I still feel like I'm not being virtuous enough. I'm not doing enough of the right things. And so he creates this list, and he's got 13 here of them, and I'll just read them out for you as they come. So these names of virtues with their precepts were temperance, eat not to dullness, drink not to elevation, silence, speak not but what may benefit others or yourself, avoid trifling conversation, order, let all your things have their places, let each part of your business have its time. Then I'll just read the others. Resolution, frugality, industry, sincerity, justice, moderation, cleanliness, tranquility, chastity, and humility. So he has these kind of 13 things he wants to work on. And these are definitely ethics and characters and stuff. So it's not, if I just said chastity, it's like, well, how do you
define that?
Yeah, how do you be more chaste? And so he does have a single sentence. So for this is, rarely use venery, but for health or offspring. Venery means sex. It's just how they said it back those times. Venereal diseases. Never to dullness, weakness, or the injury of your own or another's peace or reputation. So, it's kind of vague. It's not saying don't sleep with a prostitute. It's not saying don't cheat with your wife. It's kind of a vague goal, which we usually advocate for because it's it's not so strict. It leaves room for capturing more things, which I think are better for long-term goals, which was what this was. And then he has this whole section on how he creates a chart for himself. I'll pass it to Juan here. So it's got days of the week listed off, and then it's got his 13 things on the column side of it. So rows are the
days of the week.
Columns are days of the week. Rows are the temperaments to industry, blah, 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 blah. And then he'll start off one at a time and go, okay, temperance. This week, I'm going to try and be everything I can to make sure I don't eat to excess or to dull my senses with drink.
Gotcha.
And so he'll put a dot on a day when he doesn't do it. And so each of these is 1 week, these columns. And then he was talking about how he created this whole thing. And would add one at a time. And so, he has a full week of temperance, being temperate, I guess, and then goes, all right, now I'm going to start adding in silence and try and be temperament and silent throughout this whole week and not get
Right, okay, so like an additional, right?
Yeah. And so he does this until he kind of reaches the end, and there is a little bit of limiting in this because he doesn't talk about some of the psychological things, like if you fall off the bandwagon, do you scratch it all out or do you start again? How do you make sure that you're actually doing it and not just saying that you're doing it? So I think he had a thing where in the evenings he would do a bit of a review and stuff like that, but he didn't detail it really clearly. So that was his approach, and I was going, I think I need to do something similar to this. I think I need some of this in my life.
Yeah, okay. Which I was going to say, we talked about it before in the podcast, but you have a similar set of things that you do on that tracking basis. I guess not specifically for the moral virtues or values, as opposed to...
These are more habits that I'm trying to inculcate. So, Spanish practice or German practice or something like that. It's nothing really virtuous in it. It's more just about making sure I'm putting the time in. Whereas this is getting to a couple of things, and I'll talk a bit about my weaknesses in a minute after I've let you kind of react to that. And then I was noticing, like I'm failing morally in these things, and it's not getting captured elsewhere. I think I need to add something into my tracking, into my own self-development and improvement, in my own quest to be morally perfect, moral perfection. I need to add some things in to try and get closer, which is related to one of my long-term goals for this year, which was, if I find it exactly here, it was ding ding ding. It was to figure and fix my bad tendencies. Pretty much related directly to that. So,
yeah. Okay. I mean, so some of my reactions and thoughts as we progress here in this podcast is we're going to be talking about what we see, I guess, at the forefront of our, if you want to call it, moral weaknesses, or where we see that there is support, where we need to apply some of this rigor to understand how we can improve. And then maybe what are the things that we do currently that might be targeting that, or what are the things that we're not doing currently that might help, as AKA almost tabulating it and being like, hey, we need to be tackling this. So that's kind of how we structured. I would kind of disagree in I would push back on the moral perfection of being morally perfect. It kind of goes, don't know if you can be ever morally perfect. And I don't know if it was having a conversation about that or not.
No, not really. That, it's much like the aspect of being the best in the world. So, how can you be the best in the world? Who gets to judge that? Is it based on time? Is it based on critics? Is it based on what your peers say or something like that? I don't think there's a way of actually attaining it for greatest of all time, for example, is another one.
Maybe,
but I think it can be used as a useful goal to try and get up there.
Yeah. I was going to say there's my take on this, and towards that thing we keep on saying, which is sort of like the top level, the threshold of a mere mortal light. I would say that there is aspect of the moral compass, if you will, that you should be aiming to be at the very top levels of a mere mortal. However, to be expecting to be morally perfect across all is not just, I don't even think it's not achievable, but two, I don't even think it's helpful. I don't even think it's genuinely helpful to be aiming for perfection and across it all. Maybe there'd be some wiggle room if I'm talking one or two things, and then the rest kind of can go by the wayside. I'm kind of imagining, the impression of Usain Bolt. You could consider him at this current time probably the greatest of all time at 100 meters sprinting. I don't know. I'm not enough in that space to know whether that's real or not. If there are other contentions for whatever reason. However, if you would say, okay, now he wants to be the best at 100 meters in all time, and also the best person to know German language. Oh, okay. Well, that's two things which you require a lot of effort. I'm just putting random two things. It's probably quite improbable statistically that you're going to probably achieve that, given the fact that there's 8 billion people on Earth, and enough of them are probably putting more of an effort to be better at that exclusive thing than you splitting up your time. I kind of look at it the same way of being morally perfect. Well,
you don't think that's just one thing? You think that's more than one thing?
I think it's more than one thing. I think, I think in the way that it's described there, it's broken down into quite a lot of different things. And so, can you say you are a morally perfect human if, let's say 12 of those tendencies you do perfectly, but one of them's not? Well, it's almost perfect, but it's not perfect. Like perfection would be, okay, you're completely, absolutely benign of all of these issues that you don't even apply them to your day-to-day life.
Yeah.
Or maybe there's a perfect day. Fine, I can get behind perfect days, like really short period of times. I just don't think in the extent of, yep, you've completed it, you've mastered of being perfect morally. I'd go, I sincerely doubt there's ever like human on earth who ever like achieved that.
Yeah,
realistically.
I don't think he would claim to moral perfection. He talks in the book a lot about his,
but I guess he talks about
and
the
whatnot.
striving towards moral perfection.
Yeah, sure. I don't think there's anything wrong with aiming for that. Two, probably a bit of it is a kind of a religious thing as well. He was somewhat religious, so it's going to fall. That's why you open it up long. he had a semi-strong Christianity bent to him, I suppose. But accepting of other religions. But I think part of it is related to that. He's maybe using language which is a bit more in the Bible and things like that. I don't know.
Okay, so language, and that was my only thing. But
yeah,
so in my terms, when I'm talking, when we're talking about the weaknesses and where I want to achieve and all of that as we go to the podcast, I'm trying to ascertain, and you'll see them. We'll talk about it. Obviously, my eminent human beings and all that. There's like it's a certain level that I would say is like, yep, that's the highest I really want to attain. It's not the highest. It's like not the highest, and I can compare that into then if we talk moral, ethical values and whatever else it might be.
Yeah. I'm fine with someone doing it. Would I personally say I'm striving for moral perfection? Probably not. But I'm just trying to be better than I am. But I think it's a fine enough tool if you want to frame it that way. You can. All right, let's jump on to weaknesses then.
Yep.
What do you feel your biggest weaknesses are?
Well, I was kind of going off. So you shared with that list that you were just reading out before earlier with me, and I thought, I'll probably pick a couple of them just to map it up against there, because there's some that as I started thinking through it, I went, it's probably quite easy for me to find weaknesses in amongst all of them.
Oh yeah.
It's quite easy to find like weaknesses across all of them and more. Like you can go and find more and more and more and more. And so I picked up a couple. I guess I can share at least in this space. One was the frugality, so the frugality aspect, and I noted that I have a dichotomy that lives within me of I hold in spending far too little on some things. This could include still on things like food, furniture to an extent. There's frugality in things that for realistically, I don't need to be frugal anymore about, nor even like as a percentage or whatever way you want to measure it. I don't have to be frugal. Frugal in the sense that it can affect the event that I'm participating in, the emotions that are being felt, the reasons for things. So there's that dichotomy of me doing that, but also then having the frugality that extends out to friendships and others and relations as well. And so what I mean by that is the frugality of I am fine, and there's a weakness where I can kind of expect that, I know that I'm frugal with if I only connect with a person once every 2 years, 5 years, that's fine enough for me. And I'm like expected that, hey, the relationship will still be just as fine in that time, even if I don't participate in it in a much more consistent basis, 6 months, month, whatever it may be, right? And so I kind of go, yeah, I feel like that frugality mindset kind of extends to that, where I go, it's enough. It's kind of scratching the bare bottom of enough. I've got examples like this on a work front. So, I'll be good friends with people that I've worked with in the past. I won't work with them for 4, 5 years, 6 years. I'll never talk to them. I won't interact with them, not even like any platforms. But then I might see them the day I get back, and it's like nothing stopped. Like it was just continue to go. And I go, there's probably some weakness. I think it's tied to frugality in the sense of I'm just not going to spend, and here instead of money, it's energy in keeping that connection going, because I feel like it'll be enough. The next time it'll come around, it'll feel like nothing to me. But I go, there's probably a weak, exactly. So for me, I go, I'm not really thinking of how it's really probably affecting those who maybe I really want to keep that connection going. Sure, you're not going to be able to do that with everybody, but for those who might be quite important, I sense that there's frugality in the way that I spend time and energy. Okay. That is a weakness. That is a weakness to share it more broadly. Like I'll internalize my energy, even if I really looked at it rationally. I'm like, well, I probably should be spending that energy there, not just like, I don't know, looking at the grass for an hour, but maybe I'll do that. No, I don't do that, folks. But just something dumb that's like, well, that could have been better used. So there's some dichotomy of my frugality, I think. But there's one weakness which I was sort of thinking. What about you? Give me one of yours.
Oh, let's do them.
Or do you want to go all through them?
Doing a batch, yeah.
Okay.
I'll
go two more. There's another weakness, and this was the
only two people.
There's another two. Well, I only kept. I actually wrote three in total, but I can give you examples on all of them. The other one was cleanliness.
Oh yeah.
Cleanliness. Yeah. So this is a bit of a duh. And again, I kind of flip flop with. There's a certain level of cleanliness in some things that I expect, but once again, this is not. Think assets, think houses, think showering, think food. There's some aspects which I just let like very much slide. And then there's other aspects which I don't. But this also goes to the cleanliness of, you can even think the way that I interact with people and language, the way that I use the cleanliness or the polish of handing in deliverables, outcomes. Again, I have a weakness and a big dichotomy that there is some things where I'll cross the T's, dot the I's, be really cleanly, or when I lived in mine, I would make sure that the kitchen's like completely like clean and all that. And then it can flip very quickly to not being that or not having that moral compass of it, because either I'm expecting someone else to do it, or I'm not finding it as important, or something else has come up. And so I go, yeah, I've seen that enough in my times where I feel like that cleanliness aspect can broadly be seen by that. And I'm also listing a couple of the ones here that are less grasped by my goals, by my annual goals. Because there's a lot that I could be talking about from that I'm talking from an annual goals. Some of these ones that I'm picking up are ones that I kind of like just stumbled and really thought through. But I go, oh yeah, I'm not picking these up anywhere realistically. There just is. And the last one that I wrote down was humility. Now this one, in a way, there's some that have been picked up. So I wrote, ego-driven. Now, whether you want to believe star signs or not, like I'm a Leo, and people say, no, I don't believe star signs. They're like, Leo's a big show-offs and all that. Well, look, there you go. Probably suits me, and with that comes a lot of ego. But for me, I was going, was it the way I was growing up? I don't know. Was it the way that I would interact with lies and then tell lies and then expect lies, and then that would feed the ego, and then it would be a certain position. So you have to like keep it to that extent. Regardless, whatever it might have been or supported it, I go, oh yeah, one of the biggest weakness would be humility in a bigger sense. And so actually, here's an interesting story. I was saying before the actual podcast began how much training I'll be doing today, right? And one of the things I was walking back to the car, I'm like just walking through, watching the storm sort of roll by on the right-hand side. And I thought, we're going to be talking about humility, and I've got to show that I'm humble, or how not humble I am. And I thought, how would I, really sort of showcase that it's still a weakness in my mind? And I went, I know, because at the same time, I had another thought going through my mind. And it wouldn't have fit into the podcast. I don't know how it would have fit into the podcast, but now I'm going to make it fit. Where I was going to be like, even though at every metric, I'm way better than Karen, that at every single possible thing, I still struggle to be humble. Then I went, oh my God, there's a perfect thing. So, and the reason I was saying that is because after we finished, I did a run today with a couple of people. We were comparing some statistics that they were asking about. Yeah. And also earlier on the day, somebody was talking to me about their training, and they're like, I've been training for 5 days a week for 6 weeks. And I was like, that's really awesome.
Nice. I've
done
that for
at
like
the
10
door,
years.
at the door behind me, like I know in my own sense that ego is like, let's go. Tell them that you train like 7 days and you've taken 2 days off this whole year. Yeah, that's what I want to do. So I sense the weakness. Now that one, I like grasp it, and I've played around with it, and I manage it in the own way. But I can still see it from a unconscious actions. I can see that it would get away from me. Consciously, I've kind of got it. There's competence in managing that moral compass, if you will, in a very conscious sense. If I'm applying consciousness, but still. The weakness applies if it's unconscious. And then it's all hell breaks loose in that regard. So those are the three that I can't just note it down as being slightly different. Something that we probably haven't talked in this one, in this podcast.
Nice. Oh, thanks for sharing, mate. All right. So mine, I put 3 down as well. Number 1, I put down as a kind of self-destruction. So this is, I didn't take them from this. I was really just looking at, similar to you, I've already got a bunch of things in place to try and force me to do stuff, through habits, so that I don't have to think about it, and it can be mitigated by other things I'm already focusing on. One of these would be directness. I said I want to be more direct.
Yes.
In my goals this month when I'm talking to ladies and things like that. So self-destruction is one where it's typically where I fall into a pattern where if I slip once, it will continue for usually some arbitrary time, usually a day or a week. So
Okay.
let's say I wanted to stretch every day and I screw up on the Thursday, I would go, all right, I screwed up this week. I'm not going to even bother really doing this and get back on the wagon until Monday.
True.
And then I would do this similar with eating, things that I've already talked about tons before, where it's kind of the meta weakness because it feeds off other ones. So
Right.
I'll have a weakness on this point, and then this one comes in and it's like, yeah, I'm going to fucking magnify
All of these
whatever
now.
that thing that you did wrong. I'm going to magnify it even more because I'm going to find a way to justify of, okay, I screwed up. I'm just going to keep going it. So I kind of did.
When you're going to keep going as in the sense of...
So let's say I've got, I buy some cookies and I'm like, okay, there's 5 cookies in this packet. It's going to be roughly 5 days till I need to shop again based on other meals. I'm going to eat 1 cookie a day. And then I eat 2 cookies. And then it's just like, fuck it, I'll eat 3 cookies the next day or something like that. It's just, there's no kind of temperance of, I'm not sure I'm using, temperance, I guess, in the sense that I'm not stopping it. Even if I fail once, I don't have that instinctive drive, which is going, okay, you screwed up once, stop it now.
Get back.
And I think a lot of people associate with this.
Yeah.
Eating too many Doritos, once you start, you can't stop. They've made it into a fucking, slogan or thing like that.
No more likes, Karen. No more likes.
People do that as, I think that's a pretty common thing. And so when I say fall into that self-destructive pattern, I think a lot of people kind of get that.
Would you say this is self-destructive? So here's again another story just to play out loud. Because I was going to share it and then I was like, hey, is this self-destructive or is this a good thing? So in a similar sense, on Saturday, I ate 2 donuts. Ooh. 2 galactic donuts from Brisbane, Fortitude Valley. Freaking lovely, awesome, smash them down. Now over the weekend I ate like shit, man. And then Sunday, I ate 3 donuts from Galactic Donuts, right? Just got after it. Now, I only wanted to eat 1. Save the others.
Yeah.
But in my mind, I'm like, fuck that. I'm eating all 3 tonight, today. They're going down. But it got me excited. Because I was like, oh, I've eaten like shit yesterday and today. Man, Monday's going to be so good because I'm going to be like so on point with my food. And I've been on point basically all 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I was like excited. I was like, yes, this is so good. I'm eating these 3 donuts because I cannot wait for tomorrow for it to be like regimented sort of level. I don't know. Was it self-destruction? Because I was like, I'm going to eat these 3 donuts right now so that tomorrow it just starts, let's go? Or
no, I think
would I have like,
I think
if I
that's
spaced it
just
out?
a justification.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I think if you didn't want to eat the 3 donuts...
You could have not eaten the 3 donuts.
No, if you didn't want to eat the 3 donuts and you did eat them, and if there was a prior plan of not eating 3 donuts...
I gotcha. Yeah,
I think that's... semi-self-destructive because you already screwed up on the day before.
Yeah,
was
good
it
point.
because you screwed up on the day before that you then ate those? It sounds like it.
Potentially, yeah.
So even if it's afterwards, you go, okay, I'm going to be super strict now.
That's
kind of what I do. I'll stuff up and then I will get back onto it later. But it is that getting back onto it later sort of thing. So that's definitely one for me. Another one is, I think I'd just put this down to fear of failure and rejection. And once again, this is kind of a meta one. It encompasses a bunch of things. So why haven't I gone all in on anything? I don't think there's a time in my life, maybe once, where I've kind of gone all in. And this was when I wanted to be in the Mackay soccer team, in the top team, because I got pushed down to the reserves or something. And I said, fuck that. I don't want to play here. I want to be in the top team. And so I started training, I think I said minimum 15 minutes every day, whether it just be some juggling, whether it be, weaving through cones. I would go to the soccer fields on the weekends and just do something. Sometimes it was an hour and a half. Even when no one else was there, it was just me kicking balls around. that's probably about the one time I've gone all in on something, but all the rest of the time has been, I don't know if it's a justification or if it's the truth, where I say, I just don't want to go all in on anything. I would prefer to have many different hobbies. I'd prefer to learn Spanish and German at the same time rather than getting fluent in just one of them.
Sure.
Why, for the podcast, for example, I haven't gone all in on the podcast, and it's kind of been in the back of my mind to go, what could you achieve if you tried your hardest for 2 years? Because for 3 and a bit years now, we've done it, we've been consistent and whatnot, but it hasn't taken up a full-time job for me or more. It's been a part-time kind of thing almost. And I say, okay, but the handstands, they add to the podcast because I've got this, and then the language learning is new topics.
But is it a rationalization, or is it the like a real weakness of the fear to fail?
It's very obvious with women. There is, I don't like getting rejected. It's very obvious with handstands because sometimes my friends will be doing a new trick and I'll go, no, I don't want to do that. Even though I could try and I'd probably fail, I still go, yeah, I don't want to do that. I'll look silly. I'll do something silly, even though I'm very comfortable around them. So it wouldn't be a bad thing.
I'm polar opposite in this to some degrees, but again, a story for you. Given I'm an idiot, given that my elbow and forearm is like super sore, but out of the blue, we were at the gym. This was like a partner and a family, and this was after an hour workout, and I was just laying there, and I was like, "Hey guys, watch me do this." Now I hadn't practiced this at all. I think I've done it once before. You know where I do like that zombie pose, like from the glam frat, and then go straight to a handstand. I was like, "Watch this," and I'm like, "Fuck it, I'll just do it. Why not? Let's just try." Perfect, man. Like piked into the position, held it for like a good 5 seconds, and then came back down. I went, I couldn't have done better if I tried this. And somehow, some way, I just made that work. Now, an idiot, my forearm then hurt afterwards and all that sort of stuff. But I was like, I was almost encouraged to do it, even though I had no idea if this was going to work in the front of people, as opposed to just doing it on my own to like practice. Like I was more motivated then than I was just to do it. Yeah, so I haven't done it since. So it's like,
weakness is that,
my weakness is the opposite almost.
The humility, you're struggling with the showing off sort of aspect. And look, I have that as well. Sometimes there is an extra boost I sometimes get. Pretty girl walking by. Yeah, I'm going to try and make this handstand look good. Or I'm going to do this extra one that I didn't need to do. That sort of thing. The final one, I kind of put this down to just general personality traits. So I definitely think I lack empathy at times. This is really noticeable with animals. I put them on a completely different plane than humans. So if I see someone kick a cat, I don't actually really feel that much. I just, even though the cat's in pain and that person's a shithead by all likelihood.
And again, I can hear in the far reaches of our podcast kingdom people being like, "What the fuck, Karen?" But there's a difference between empathy and sympathy. Go look it up if you don't know that. But you could be, I think you would be sympathetic to the cat being kicked, aka you don't want the cat to be kicked, and you can understand not wanting to kick the cat. There's a different thing of being empathetic towards something. I don't understanding, feeling the pain of like, oh, that creature's had that lesser side.
Yes, for sure. So there's definitely that. Assertiveness, we've talked about this plenty of times. I'm just not an assertive person. Taken some personality tests before, and I was way
not
down.
assertive,
And neuroticism as well. It's usually more a female trait than male, but I'm probably higher up on the overthinking type of thing. So those ones I kind of lumped in as it's personality weaknesses. I try and combat them a lot of times, but I think those are the big three at the moment that I kind of see for myself as to what I'm struggling with and failing a bit and needs some attention for sure.
I love the fact that, some of your stories are like, to mine, again, to the point of being, say, humble. Again, that story that you were saying around the assertiveness. I don't know if I've ever shared this example with you, but you know how I used to have like the year 3, year 5, and year 7 tests?
Yes.
So I did it wasn't the year 7 one, it was a year 5 test. I believe I was just like fresh in Australia. So I was, at that time, I must have been probably better than the average Australian in mathematics and a few other things just from the learning. Usually,
so it's about 10 years old for those who are wondering.
Yeah, so then we're doing the year. I don't know if you remember doing these tests where you would get like a ranking from the year 3, year 5, year 7 test,
vaguely.
And you'd get like you have a little black ball and it would be
Yes,
like
okay, I
average,
remember.
higher than average. And I remember I got back my maths and my science score. I believe it was maths and science because I don't think it was for English for sure. And the maths and science, I specifically remember the teacher being like, hey, Juan, like I think yours has to get like rechecked or something like that. And I was like really default assertive, being like, no. Like, let me see it. Like this, here's this 10-year-old kid being like, no.
I wanna see it.
Give me this. Like, I want to see it. Probably doesn't mean saying it in the right English. And I remember my little black ball, there was the average, then there was the 99%. I'm dead serious about this, folks. I was in there was like the 99 percentile line.
Yeah.
And my black ball was off the page, printed only half the ball. And the other half was beyond. So either I was like the top performing year 5 student in all of maths for Australia, or they fucked up. Either way, you better believe I squeezed the shit out of that. I was like,
yeah.
fucking Juan the king, I'm the god. So anyways, there's another story for
Nice.
humility and default assertiveness as a 10-year-old kid.
Beautiful.
So,
I like it.
so now you know some of our weaknesses. I was just going to call out, is there any comments there that you want to talk to?
So Joey came into the chat and he was saying, somewhat related, but as far as virtue goes, I was taught the Christian value of turn the other cheek when being hassled, and I don't think that this virtue/method was helpful, and I think it set me back for a period of time.
Turn the other cheek.
So yeah, Jordan Peterson talks a lot about this, where it's, you know, the meek shall inherit the earth, and then he looks up what meek means, and it means the person who has the sword but chooses not to draw it, or something like that, as in, you're fucking powerful as shit. You're overpowered, and you just choose not to squash this motherfucker who's getting
which
up
is
in your
different
face.
to the conventional thought of what.
Turn the other
cheek. Just be kind. Just be like pleasant.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the generality that you might take from that.
You usually, when I think of it as a kind of weakness position, as in you're being hassled or something, and you don't have the power to fight back, and so it's kind of a justification. That's how I've always thought about it, heard about it, seen it. So I can see why it would be confusing, especially if you're a young child and you're being told
Turn the other
cheek, and the bully at school
bullies you, and you're like, oh, actually, no, I really like I like you. Let's just be friends, and you get smashed.
No, so it'd be more like, I'm just going to walk away or something like that, and you feel like a bitch. I think that's what that feeling would be like.
I like the, again, we're talking Peterson. I like the Peterson, more of the model of, learn to be a monster and then control it.
Yeah, same thing.
Yep.
Same thing. Yep. Yeah.
Which is, I guess, the actual underlying thing of, the meek shall inherit the earth.
Yes, correct. So yeah.
Look at us getting all Christian folks.
Yeah, look at that. This is probably the closest you'll hear.
Let's talk about that. Yeah. Okay. Before we get into the stage of, well, what the fuck are we going to do about it, folks? Let's go and look at the. Stage. Let's go and look at the Boostagrams that have come down, the Boostagram Lounge. Now, are we going to get another sad puppy week?
Not as sad.
Not as sad puppy. Good.
We got 2
as
this
I'm
week.
loading it up.
So
2 is better than none.
First, as usual, from Mr. Dave Jones.
Dave Jones, definitely.
Classic.
Weekly boost for the Mere Mortalite Nation, 12,112 sats using Cron. Thank you very much, Dave. Again, keeping it rolling, keeping
awesome.
the Mere Mortalite Nation just on the hook. And this is after Bitcoin's gone up for 20-something%. And he's still sending through the 12,112 sats. Yeah, since bottom. Since I purchased it. Since I purchased it, 22%. Don't come at me, tax office. Don't come at me, tax office. That was literally that was actually just going sort of sideways tangent here.
Yeah.
But that was the best timing buy I think I've ever done ever. It was like literally at the very pinnacle bottom.
Yeah, nice.
I bought that and it was went boop.
Nice.
So well done, one.
Beautiful.
Anyways, stop being humble, one. And McIntosh is the second one. Received donation. Interesting discussion. Appreciate your guest view on fame and so-called influencers. And that was 2,100 sats using Fountain. And that was a conversation with
Justin Fox.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, McIntosh. It's nice to know other people are tuning into those ones and not just the ones between us two here.
Now, I haven't actually tuned into the Justin Fox convo. The fame, the so-called influencers conversation. Can you give me a little summary on that?
So he talked about, I suppose, a couple of different aspects. I'm guessing in particular he was referring to when he was meeting other graphic designers. So he was the youngster coming in and he would hear about this guy, and he went to a conference where this real amazing graphic designer or something, typographist or something like that. And the guy was talking about inherent talent and saying he kind of had the gift, I guess. And Justin's very much opposed to that, and is more along the lines of anyone can be an artist. It's more hard work than it is the innate talent. Yes. And so he talked about how he couldn't concentrate this whole lecture conference because he was just thinking about what question he was going to ask him. And then when he got
I was going to pin him.
Yeah. And then he got up and he was saying, because I think the guy used the word hero, and Justin was saying, no, you're not a hero at all. Heroes are firefighters and things like this. Apparently everyone was booing him.
Yeah, everyone was just like bagging Justin.
Yeah. So
be your own person.
I think that's what he was referring to. I don't think we got into like influencers as in the Instagram type ones or things like that. So it's probably what he's talking about with fame a little bit.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. But yes, thank you very much, McIntosh, for that boost.
Generation Bitcoin, I actually appeared on his show not too long ago, as in a week ago. So,
right.
Yeah, if you want to know more about my backstory with Bitcoin, and we talk a lot about advertising and value for value there.
Cool.
So just a little fun thing, Generation Bitcoin.
Go check that out.
If you want to check that out.
And that's the Boostagram Lounge, folks. I mean, stay tuned to the end and how you can actually make an appearance on the podcast as well.
Correct. So plans one, what's our plans? Give me the details. You've already got this in place. We've talked about this. I should have looked up the episode before this. It was one of the ones where we were actually going to Kangaroo Point. I definitely remember it there. If you type in Eminent Human Being or Eminent into our podcast website, it'll show the episode there. And yeah,
there'll be a whole most detail.
But yes, into that. But give us a recap of what your process is, and are you going to add to it? Does anything need changing?
Yeah, it's a good point. So again, a little bit of a summary. I lay out, and we've talked about our goals endlessly, but to put it at long-term goals, I created off the back of a Jocko Willink episodes, a couple of episodes that were about the eminent marine, and they had this big long list of tree structure, and there can only be one, and all this sort of stuff. I mean, that's really quite cool, and I applied it in my own sense to my 3 categories of mind, body, soul. Now, does that fit all of the fractionality of the moral compasses that you want to play? Maybe, maybe not. I'm not sure. I haven't really looked into it too deeply, but for me, that mind, body, soul split, I have an eminent human being from level 0 to level 5. And this is where I was getting to the point of level 5 and level. I'm to give you an idea. I'm in level 1 for 2 of them and level 2 for 1 of them. Right.
Okay.
So to achieve level 3, at least for me, would be quite far in the future, realistically.
Yep.
Levels 4 and 5 are probably like.
Are they achievable?
Like maybe. Well, they're mere mortal top threshold, as in they're the things of you're quite well off, wealthy, or flexible with your time. You are known, but it's not the best. Like I'll give you an answer with the for the soul perspective. One aspect of the relationship within that, in the eminent level 5, the top level, is someone who is known for the relationship / interpersonal skills. So that again, it's a bit floaty in the same sense that we were talking about at the beginning, because it's not netted down of this exact thing. But that doesn't mean I've got to be the best in the world at that. It doesn't mean I've got to sell a book that makes 1 million book sales. Nothing like that. No, it doesn't have to be the best. It's known to be exceedingly good at that. Not just by me, not just by close proximity. It's by a large group of people. And so, yes, you can say it is a little bit nebulous. It's better in that way, as we've talked about from that longer term view. So that's an example of how I split my goals all map up to that in some way, shape or form, but also incorporate, as we talked about, weaknesses. So for me, there's a lot of things around the fitness space, or connecting with family and relationships more, to being more present as opposed to into the future or the past. So a lot of those things fit quite nicely into my goal settings in the Eminent Human Beings, but not all. So some of the things that I just listed out there, that's what got me thinking on some of these I don't truly capture everywhere. In essence, I don't particularly believe that through those eminent sections that I've put together really quite capture maybe the humility aspect, or they don't explicitly tell me how I'm going to get better at frugality. Because when I look at the eminent human being sort of groupings, I go, it's never really going to come up here to compare against. And I went, okay, so it's not going to be fun there. So some, but not all, are picked up. So then my next level that I might have talked about, might not have, is my maxims. So I've got a little list of maxims. On OneNote, I've been structuring this similarly since I began with the Eminent human beings sort of scoring for myself. My maxims are a big list now of maybe 17 or 18 things, which again, it could be, think about it, principles. I just call it as maxims because they're more actionable orientated, I guess. And again, these are almost ways of living now. They're more along the lines of quotes and practicality of applying it, less about, again, how I'm going to tackle or be more morally perfect, if you want to look at it that way. So there's some there, again, if I review them, I go, oh yeah, I can see that if I was to follow these things, I will be more humble. I will be more cautious. I will be conscientious. I'll be more empathetic. Yep, I'm hitting a lot of those. But again, I'm like, oh, the frugality aspect or the humbleness kind of gets hit, kind of not. So I go, okay, that's touching some of them, but not a lot. Again, not all of them. Or at least if I talk about a weakness, it's not being captured there, even consciously. I'm almost like consciously targeting the ones I prefer, or unconsciously it's not getting picked up.
He talks about this in the book where there's a quote where he's saying, man has this amazing capability of reason to do what we want or to do what we like. It'll be in the book review if you check that out.
But and that's super correct. But there's another quote, I don't know who attributed this to, but it was like, your beliefs should be hypotheses, not treasures that you guard, right?
Okay.
Now, that sort of quote to me is what I would generally find its way into the maxims of, hey, that is absolutely true. That's how I want to live. I don't want to have beliefs that are, again, it goes to the hold them, have strong views, loosely held, that sort of mentality. But I go, those are great because generally I will find quotes, but it is very hard to find generally that frugality or a few of these other ones that I'm talking about where it's not unique to you in humanity's sense, but it is very niche in comparison to the motivational jargon and pamphlets and information that you're going to find out there. You'll find a ton of that from all which way you look at for a lot of the others, ego, justice, all this sort of stuff. But the particulars sometimes, the like more niche ones, you're not going to find that too often. So in the end, where have I landed with some of these ones in terms of tackling? I actually think it's not in my eminent human structure that is going to fall on. I think it's going to be a re-encapsulation of my maxims, in the sense that I found myself also thinking about this when I was writing down what things I would want to teach my kid as they grow up. And I found that was a little bit futile. Don't do this. It was dumb.
Okay.
As in, I was like, 0 to 6 months, this sort of stuff I could teach them. 6 to 12 months. Okay, should I, in like the way I do it, should I experiment with, 2 months of learn about space and then 2 months of learning about dinosaurs? I talked about it with a couple of parents. Don't do that.
Yeah,
and one of the key things is,
even to me,
again,
that sounds like micromanaging.
Yeah, which for me, I'd be like, oh, this sounds cool. It's not going to be cool for them. So I kind of went, okay, I realize that. Good. I'm glad people pointed this out to me. But there's an aspect there of like, oh, I want to teach, I want to share. They also have to be, coming to you and to want that experience. Kind of similarly I've really kind of nailed myself on, hey, letting them read the fun stuff. There's no need for them to read, the very heavy things at the very beginning. One, you're probably not going to get all the context of it. Two, I don't want to see what happened to me and you more especially with like the reading when you're in school and then kind of not hating it. It happens to a lot of people. It happens to a lot of people.
People seem to have developed a dislike for reading.
Yeah, because of that. So I kind of fell away with clearing it down to what are the values and what are the principles and what are the maxims that I want to teach them. And in doing that process, I haven't finished it, but I went, oh shit, there's a couple of values that I'm writing here that I hadn't really captured in my maxims. Finally, what does that mean for me? I think I'm going to have an eminent human being structure, which won't be altered. I think those are pretty solid in the mind, body, soul aspect. And they're almost, although not really, they're almost like social successes in the sense that they're socially recognizable successes to both me and the general population that I interact with. Mm-hmm. AKA, there's an expectation to people, there's got to be somebody else in this world to appreciate the completion of that. Otherwise, it's kind of meaningless. AKA, if I was to say, hey, I want to be earning more than $100 million. or have a net asset of $100 million. That means dog shit squat if you're the only person in this world. That means nothing. What does that mean? Nothing. So it's within the social construct. So there's a lot of those levels are within social construct. I would say that. Then I'm going to have my maxims where I'm going to keep to be less really trying to affect him in a moral perspective, but more, hey, these are my actionable principles, my frameworks, if you will, my, what are we calling it? Practical
ethics.
Practical philosophy.
Effective philosophy.
Here's my effective philosophy, basically. If I'm going to write a book, it's coming from those maxims, right? That's where it's like, you got 12 Rules for Life from Jordan Peterson. Mine's going to be like the 18 maxims for life. That's literally where it's going to come from. That's the sort of book that it would be. But there's a third list, which is I've already kind of built based on the kid or babies and kids coming down the line of, hey, these are the moral imperatives. That's what I'm calling it. It's the moral imperatives. I haven't started writing it, but that's what it's going to be called now. I just made it up right then.
Nice.
These are the morals which are imperative to try to get right. So I'm kind of using terminology not of being perfect, but it's the ones that you have to get right. So it won't be all of them, but it'll be the ones that I know I need to target weaknesses / the ones that are more general, because it is going to be information that I want to try to pass down to other people or kids or family or whoever, but also inversely, also targeting the ones that are critical for me. And if I have to really play out, I think I'm going to have a new goal line in my monthly goals, where most of them will come from my annual goals and Eminent Human Being structure, and that'll continue. But I'll reserve one clear one for my monthly goals, which will be, hey, that month I'm going to focus on this moral imperative and making sure that I'm doing things the right way. And then there might be subset tasks, actions, and when we're talking about it, things that are effective, that you're practically putting in use, not just talking about it and it goes up in smoke. It's, hey, this is the result of doing this. And it might be, if it's humility or humbleness, okay, I'm going to, each and every time I want to show off, I'm going to try to, and I did this morning, very hard, pivot it to use my knowledge to kind of bolster the person or support the person. You can do that. It just takes a bit of a shift. Now, I don't do that always, but I could I'm going to do that more than 50% of the time, right? I'm just pulling this out my ass. But these are the things we can do, or at least I'm going to try and do to tackle the moral imperatives that I see in my mind.
Okay, cool.
So those are, in a long-winded way, that is my summary of those.
Nice. So I can hear someone thinking this. I can hear them thinking this. This is how loud it is. They're going, that is so convoluted. There are so many different things going on. I know roughly. I've seen your structures. I've looked at the documents and whatnot. Even after all of that, I go, man, that's a lot of stuff there. And that's, I guess, where the practical ethics is. The question is, well, how practical is that one? Now, it's very practical for you. You know all of that stuff. And so for everyone listening, maybe that was a bit much. Just take on board. I've got a simple way of how I'm going to deal with this. So with kind of self-improvement and development, a lot of it is keeping accountability. And so there's the maxim. I always bring up this: what doesn't get measured doesn't get managed. You need to measure your things. Otherwise, how many reps did I do last week? 6, I guess. And then you use that as a benchmark when you actually did 8, and now you're just being lazy. So I think there's a lot that's related to making sure, okay, how is this going to be useful for me at the time, and is it actually working? All of your things. I assume you're smart enough that if you saw you were doing all this, that it would actually be working, and you can actually go and look back at years time, 2 years, 5 years time, and go, okay, this has actually had some benefits. So when I look at my ones as well, I've got a lot of data and spreadsheets and shit, and they change over time. I don't think it needs to be. It doesn't need to be a continual adding. You can sometimes get some stuff good and go, okay, do I need to track my calories now? I kind of know. I'm staying within the same rough weight range. I can let go of this a little bit. I don't need to track it daily or per hour. Maybe I can do it weekly or even monthly or something like that.
Minute by minute.
I definitely see this with myself, and so I used to have this daily sheet where it was a lot more of these ethical type ones. Make sure you do one approach per day. Get used to failure. Make sure that you are eating correctly and you're not going overboard, and that if you fail on this one day, you've got another day coming up tomorrow that you don't need to be self-destructive on. You don't need to wait a full week. You can keep it locked in tight. And that helped for a while, but man, is it exhausting, because then you have to spend 15 minutes each day checking all of the things that you've done. Did I do this? Did I not do that? Is this useful or not? And so that has now converted into a weekly one. And I honestly, sometimes I'll go 3 weeks and then update it and look back and go, yeah, I think roughly this week I did this. Yeah, I roughly did enough Spanish that week. Shit, I didn't do any German. Put a big N in there. I feel bad, Kyron. Try and do better for the next one. For this one, I'm making it real easy. I don't have time to add more crap into my day. And I was actually trying to improve this. And you'll remember from a couple of months ago, I was saying I was developed a little Evernote note on my screen, on my phone, which I'd read in the mornings. And it would be, this was back in November, December-ish, when I was feeling a bit down on myself. And I was going, okay, I can see myself getting into a bad spiral here. Number one, make sure you're sleeping at a good time. Get to bed before midnight or 12:30. Number two, make sure you're sleeping for at least 7 hours. Number three, start off the day strong. Don't waste time on your phone. Do something. Doesn't matter what it is. And so I had this little list, and I still got it here on my phone, and I was still somewhat using it, but I was kind of half-assing it as well. I'd get on get on the toilet in the morning, whip it out, and I'd say, habits. What are my habits going to be? Okay, let's see if I can find this on my phone. It's fallen down a bunch. Maybe I renamed it something. Anyway, it would be, I swear this week I will, here we go, be thankful for something after waking. Focus on critical podcast tasks. Set aside a block of time at midday-ish. Listen to German whilst driving easy places. All these sort of little things which were designed to get me to do this stuff. But I was half-assing it. Right. And it wasn't working. And I'd taken a little leaf from Benjamin Franklin's book, and I'm going, okay, I'm going to do one thing this week, and just, I swear this week I will ... and then it's just going to be one. So this one at the moment, classic one, because I fucked this up again. Remain abstinent from porn. I started watching porn again.
It's on again, folks.
It's like, it's just something, I'm good with all the other vices. This one is definitely an addiction, and it can fuck me up easy. So I went, okay, this is one thing, and I change it up. And so instead of dicking around on the toilet and like half-assing it, it's usually when I wake up, I splash some water on my face. Yep. And then I'll be in front of the mirror, and I pull out the phone, and it's okay. Like, time to get serious now. Look myself in the eyes and be like, you motherfucker, this week I swear I will ... Yep. And I'm finding that already. It's only been 3 days, but I'm finding that already to be a bit more effective. It's more practical. It's stronger, and it's just one thing at the moment. When I add in another one, who knows? Well, I'm hoping I can probably add maybe not 13 like Benjamin Franklin's got. Maybe I can add 3 or 4 before it starts to get less effective again and gets back to this.
But you're beginning with the important stuff, like the stuff that you're like, okay, this is the leading domino. Yeah. There's the leading domino that's going to be the magnified change to my life right now.
Pretty much. And this is the thing, you'll see this a lot with self-development. It'd be like, self-talk, got to make sure you're doing this in the mornings, motivation, this sort of shit. And then it's a list of 20 things. And you go, how the fuck am I going to do all this? The most hilarious ones are when they dial it down to the 5-minute chunks or something like that. Yeah. And it's, I get my coffee at 6:38 a.m. I look at the clouds and get vitamin D on my balls for the next 23 minutes and a half. And then I go in, I write some emails, I get some shit done. I'm already up and done a whole day's work before you're even up, you motherfucker, blah, 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 blah. It's so, maybe it works for some people. Mostly I think it's BS. And I think it's just about finding what level is good for you. Sure, maybe for the OCD, ADD, whatever people who can handle
that
half-minute increments in their daily schedule, maybe that works. And it honestly, it doesn't, because life gets in the way. Your car doesn't work that morning. Oh shit, I can't get to work at exactly 7:25
And even if it works sometimes, it's not going to work forever.
No. Which is one of the things I think is maybe not super helpful about what Ben Franklin had going there, which was this list of numbers and dots on days when he did it didn't do it right, I question, okay, well, you're going to fuck up. There's no doubt about this. What's your psychological way to get back on the wagon? And he doesn't talk about that. So who knows? Maybe for him it was easy. Maybe for him it was hard. Who knows? But for me, it was definitely, okay, I'm going to do these things where it's just one thing a week, like one at a time, and just, it's almost about psyching yourself up into seriousness. Because it's so easy to say, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to eat chocolate this week. But it's just you saying it. But then what if you say, I'm not going to eat chocolate this week to your friend or in front of the podcast camera?
Yeah. And then it's on, yeah.
Or I'm not going to eat chocolate this week and I've set up a
payment to go to something bad if
to
it
a
happens.
negative charity. Okay, I'm not going to do this week. And you can get real deep into it. And sometimes you need to physically hand over portions of your life to other people because you can't handle it. I think that's a entirely reasonable thing to do, but it's better to do if you can get a hold of it yourself. So in essence, daily mantra repeated in front of the mirror, creating a bit more effectiveness, one at a time, with a new edition per week. And I'm already seeing myself where, okay, maybe one day a week I'll have a release valve and it'll be, I won't say it to myself in the mirror. So if I screw up that day, it's okay,
right,
as long as the next day. But at the moment,
got to play with it. Yeah,
do it on a full week thing and be like, no bullshit.
Go for it. Yeah. I mean, the only thing I was going to say on my part, because yes, I think at the onset of me saying things of, hey, it's complex. A couple of things. One, I think I went from kind of the opposite of noting things down maybe once a week or something, like doing it daily. And I almost find that daily is almost like my meditation approach of reviewing the day. And normally it's on the day afterwards, but it's almost like a meditative state, which I really enjoy. So I like doing that daily. And I've also, we're looking, and you probably put the graph of what we were talking about earlier, but putting the dots and putting the dates. A lot of my stuff, like a big amount of my things is now digitized. So one of the key things about any of this that we're talking about, or the tools that your techniques that you're going to apply is, can you do it day in, day out, week in, week out, year in, year out, 10 years in, 10 years out, no matter what's happening? For me, it's predominantly yes. Mine's just all available through the phone, unless literally internet goes down and I have no access to it. Even then I can do draft modes. So unless my phone blows up completely, well, I can get another phone and do it through Access. So there's very few things that can happen to stop me doing my process, which is a good thing. But I agree. I might take that approach though, in terms of not over engineering something when maybe it's an easier approach that can be done with it. Maybe it doesn't go into my monthly goals. Maybe it's just as you say, a similar like weekly mantra. Maybe it's just weekly, like, hey, here's my moral imperatives. I'm going to pick this one. There's going to be a weekly or a monthly thing where I'm like, hey, remember this just every morning. Just go through the day with that a little bit more at the forefront as opposed to something else. Even just that might be a more helpful thing. Now, I created a quote today, I think. Ooh. This might exist somewhere. I might have stolen it from somewhere without meaning to, but I saw a post from James Clear and I posted it on my story and I put a little quote. I don't think I've seen this anywhere. So it's either going to be quotable, Juan and I, mere mortals, or it's from somewhere and I'm sorry that I've stolen it. But it's first you set the space. No, first you create the space and then you set the pace. What I mean by this. So with all of this stuff, I think,
say it again.
So first you create the space and then you set the pace. I'm just going to go ahead and just verify that this is not a quote from somebody else. If it is, I apologize. It might be. It might be.
I haven't seen an initial Google thing doesn't come up with anything. So
yeah. So this just came out of my brain. So might have attributed to me. But what I meant by this is similar to the James Clear, getting better 1% every day. Is that hey, with a lot of these things that we're talking about. First, we have to create the space, aka we're making the time to either say it out loud, talk about it on a daily basis, me creating the space on my actual weekly, monthly goals or something like that. Create the space at its most basic, at this very easiest way to achieve it. So if you want to get something that's a tool that's actually practical and you're going to do it, just create the space, just make it available, even if it's tiny. And then once you create it, then set the pace, aka this is actually applying, so I was thinking about it more so from a gym perspective, but if you were to go to the gym and you go, okay, I'm going to create the space, I'm going to make 20 minutes, and then you're going to go 20 minutes. You don't have to go hard. You can just be there, just be present, do some things. But once you get into the habit of creating the space of 20 minutes, then you can set the pace and then go harder and harder and harder and harder and be better, be more intense, be better dialed in, do much more specific things. But first you have to create the space. So for all of this, I think if I'm going to bring moral imperatives into my dialect of my own self inwardly looking improvement, I first have to create the space, which I haven't been. Like with review, I go, some have been catered to by some of my tools already, but I haven't actually created a space. So my first stage at least is create the space for it. Once I determine what that looks like in terms of space in a day-to-day to be practical about it, then I'll set the pace, aka can I increase this from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 until it breaks. And that's, okay, now I know that's like the pace I can go at. Similarly, I've done this with monthly goals. I know that, we got to a time when we're doing 14, 15, 16, 17 monthly goals, and I could see that I was increasing. I was increasing the pace until it broke. Until
Actually,
I was
I had 16 at one point.
It was one point. So I can there's a threshold. That was the breaking point of it. You're starting to either break them down too much, they're not big enough, they're not important enough, whatever. And then it's okay, cool. Let's scale that back. But setting the space comes first. So set the space first. So there you go.
Nice.
Attribute it to one.
I like that. So I'll give you my little summary here. So I think you can gain the framework from others, but you need to find the unique quirks that will work for you psychologically. So Benjamin Franklin's got his framework here, and on the next page, he says how he sets it out into hours. I think that's a good starting point. Set aside your hours in the day. So he's got 5 a.m. wake up, and he's one of those people. 5 a.m.
Wake up earlier.
5 a.m. to 7 a.m. Rise, wash, address powerful goodness, contrive day's business. It even sounds like you, man. It's hilarious. Take the resolution of the day.
It's me, but weaker.
Prosecute the present study. It's fucking one to a T. And breakfast.
Weak.
Work from 8 until 11. A couple of hours to read or overlook his accounts and dine. 2 till 5. Work again. Put things in their places. Supper, music or diversion or conversation. Examination of the day, and then sleep for 7 hours. Look at this guy. So he's got his kind of method here for his setting out his day. I think that's totally fine to do, and I'd encourage people to look at self-development plan, a morning routine or daily routine or thing like that. I think a lot of that can help, and if you particularly want to make it ethics wise, you could do things like that. You could have your work section, and instead of it saying work, it says, I'm going to be more humble in these hours of the day or something like that.
But not the others.
If you notice you're not being temperament, i.e. you're not you're drinking too much, eating too much in the evenings, maybe you can have from 5 till 8 p.m. I'm going to be temperament, something like that. I've got to make
That's a good point.
Sure, I'm saying that temperance. I think you can change that.
Temperance.
I'm saying temperant. Yeah. So resources for this, I honestly would just say one of the best you'll find is Think and Grow Rich by what's his name, Napoleon Hill. It's the kind of granddaddy of all self-help books in many ways. It's a lot of it is related to becoming wealthy, but
you can apply that elsewhere.
A lot of it is health related and goal related. And honestly, check out the Benjamin Franklin book. I was surprised at how his autobiography, I should say. I was surprised by how pertinent it still is and readable. So that's a good one. You probably don't need to pay for these things unless you're paying for someone to kind of whip you into shape. Getting into that. If you're just so bad at being humble and you need someone to call you up once a day and go, well, you humble today, Juan. What have you done to highlight another person's good points or something like that?
There's fucking professional coaches out there, dude. You're getting paid tons of money to do this.
And if you need that and you've got the money for it, go ahead, do it. But by
introducing the mere mortals coaches, folks, one Bitcoin will tell you, will ask you directly if you've been good or bad boys.
Yeah, we'll just say no, do better. Yeah. And so if you need that, go for it. The last one, which you touched upon, is I think 2 to 3 layers deep is probably good for reflecting on your weaknesses. So if you're reflecting, for me it would be, okay, what's a weakness of mine? I'm scared to approach women. Okay, what's the underlying weakness behind that? I'm scared of rejection. I fear rejection. What's behind that? I was sexually repressed as a kid, and that's the reason why I'm scared of this. What's the reason behind that? And this is where you're getting into the psychoanalytic theory. I have penis envy. I saw my mother's genitals when I was 4.5 years old, and the young philosopher in me couldn't comprehend it. And dude, there's so much shit in those books.
The young philosopher
where it's talking about how the kid is, you know, scared of pooping and he's excrementing everywhere, and it's just like, you've gone too fucking deep, man. You've analyzed too deep. You can do that with this. When it's introspection related, you can go too far.
Yeah, you can't go too deep.
2 or 3 layers is about all you need. If you're going 6 layers deep, you've gone too far.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good call, actually. Yeah.
If you've gone 6 Excel spreadsheets too deep, if you've gone 6 increments into your like plan, here's my life. I'm going to go 1 more deep, which will be for every 7 years of my life. I'm going to go 1 more deep, which will be for every of those 7 years. I'll break that into a 6-month increment. If I go into that, you know, you've gone too deep. You probably need 3 levels max, I would say.
There's a good rule of thumb there. There's a good rule of thumb. I think let's just say as well, beyond the 2 to 3 threshold, you're starting to get to the unpractical levels.
Yes,
as in, this is not effective philosophizing anymore. You're just talking shit at that point. Like, there's a lot of shit being written down elsewhere, and you probably spent a lot of time setting it up. But believe you me, you're not going to keep it up. No way. Especially not when you're talking, you know, someone will build this brilliant, like, complex fucking thing with, again, 17 billion layers, and it's like, well, it's fantastic, but are we going to be using it in 10 years' time after you've used it for, 36,500 days, some shit like that, 3,650 days? Like, are you really going to be using it? Maybe not. Maybe not. So, very good. Okay. So that's been Musings today, talking about weaknesses and some of the tools and techniques there. So hopefully you take away some of those. Either you've heard about us talk about it before. Maybe it helps you reflect on your own weaknesses.
I know how people can be more ethical.
How can they be more ethical? Practically?
They can boost in the mere mortals.
They can.
We follow the value for value model. We just ask that you return some value. If you've listened all this way, I'd hope that you've gotten some value from this. And just returning that in whatever form you see fit is the way to do it. So you could tell a friend about this, share it, a link, click on the button wherever you're listening to this, and share it via Instagram, or someone who maybe is too deep into the rabbit hole of personal development or whatnot. Maybe they like Benjamin Franklin and books, and they go, there's what he took out from it. All that sort of stuff. There's the method where you can provide some talent back. So if you think we're screwing something up, if our audio sounds not so great, if you'd prefer to hear less likes or ums and ers, if there's any other tics that we're not noticing, if there's another book you would recommend that I should read after this, all of those are great. Or if you have the latest self-help one and you think, oh, okay, they did this really good or bad, I would love to know that. And then the final one is the most ethical thing that a person can do. If they want to achieve moral perfection, this is what they have to do. They have to go into a new podcast app. I would recommend Fountain. I'd recommend Breeze. I'd recommend Customatic. Those are good ones to start off with. And send in a message to us, and that message will be done in the actual podcasting app. So it kind of makes sense. It'll almost always reach us, depending on the Lightning Network. Correct. And it has a portion of Bitcoin attached to us. So you're sending monetary value. You're showing your appreciation in one of the strongest ways you can do that, which is monetary value. So we'll just highlight you can do that. We always recommend and read them out on the live episodes that we do on Wednesdays, when the audio gets released on a Friday. And we are very much appreciative of it. We highlight you on the leaderboard that we have on our website, immortalspodcast.com/supporter. Yes. Supporter. And I just we really do appreciate it if you do that. This podcast does take a lot of time, energy, effort, and money, paying for cameras, equipment, of hosting, all of this.
Energy now. Here in Australia, the prices of energy are about to jump up at about 30% mid-year as well. Yep.
Okay. Are you buying energy one?
I'm buying energy. You know what's being bought up heaps? Grasslands. Lots of trees. Do you know why? Carbon offsetting. So they can sell it back to companies so they can carbon offset. Nice. Go look it up, folks. Go look it up.
The carbon offsetting is so fucked.
Man, it's fucking wild. I hope you have enjoyed Me Immortalites at Home. For those who have been tuning live, thank you so very much. For those who are listening to this after the Curse of It was live, again, Brisbane Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. on Wednesdays is when you'll find us live doing the musings. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, bye now.
Current out. Bang, bang, bang.
Good. Good. Thank you very much, folks.
Yeah, cheers,
Stand up some
everyone.
sweating.
Yeah. I didn't sweat as bad as you, thankfully.
Oh, mouth stinking.
Stinking hot. So I'm going to say ciao to Juan. I'm going to end the stream now. If you want to hang around in the Discord, I'll be there in about 5 minutes' time. So peace until then.